Yo, what's up guys, it's NLW Figs here, back again with another video. Today, what we're doing is going through 5 unfulfilled NLW plans. These are plans that have been changed, cancelled, but I thought it would be interesting because I've never really told you guys about plans that used to be in place for a long time until I changed them at the last minute. So, these are 5 changes that I've made to the NLW script and storyline that were supposed to happen. But before I get into it, make sure you like the video and subscribe for more wrestling figure content. But without further ado, let's get into number 1. So to start off this list, yes, Braun Strowman was supposed to be the Metalweight Champion. I was going to have a storyline where Braun would kind of tear through the competition, kind of like Goldberg would, and become the Metalweight Champion, because if you remember, I was pushing him quite hard on Metal a couple of years ago, before I kind of took a break from it. I went to university. So yeah, Braun Strowman supposed to be the big unstoppable champion, and the reason I changed this was mainly because I didn't know what the quality of matches I could use with Braun Strowman. I wanted to go for wrestlers who could put on a good match, and Braun Strowman, he can put on a good match, but just there's a lot of restrictions that you have to think about when you're building around this big powerhouse wrestler. And then the storyline would take a twist when Goldberg was supposed to actually show up at the Royal Rumble and win it, and then go on to WrestleMania to face Braun Strowman, and they actually ended up doing that at WrestleMania 36 for the Universal title. So I'm glad that this one didn't come to fruition. It would have been cool to have Goldberg have another run, but I feel like with modern fans, there's a little bit of a stigma about Goldberg coming back and being too old, and etc, etc. So I thought it probably wouldn't have gone down as well as I would have liked. But the Goldberg that I envisioned was the one from WCW, where he's just kicking ass all over the place. He would have speared Braun Strowman and kind of gone on a dominant run, and then eventually my plan was to have Samoa Joe actually beat Goldberg and kind of get that redemption. And the reason that didn't happen was because I felt that Samoa Joe should have won the title sooner and won it back sooner, and I'm glad he did back at the Elimination Chamber in May. So yeah, there was an issue with timing and stuff, because by the time that Goldberg would have actually won the championship, you know, that wouldn't have even happened yet. But that was initially the plan for WrestleMania 5 before I came up with the whole NLW versus Metal thing. And there were even plans at one point to have a feud between Braun Strowman and The Undertaker, and that would end with The Undertaker winning the Metalweight Championship. And this was more of a way to refresh The Undertaker's character, come back as a face, but I ended up going down the Ministry of Darkness route instead with Kenny Omega. So The Undertaker facing Braun, that would have been an interesting one. I'm not sure how well it would have gone down, but there were plans that I was going to have these, have Metal as kind of like the big man show, you know, full of like the super heavyweights and stuff like that. So I'm glad I've gone in a different direction now, but yeah, interesting stuff. Now the second plan on this list that I was going to have was Velveteen Dream coming to NLW. So back when Seth Rollins kind of returned after WrestleMania 4, this time last year I believe it was actually supposed to be Velveteen Dream who would have these vignettes and then come out on the stage and challenge Seth Rollins and kind of get in his mind, and then move on and win a bunch more matches and have a couple more feuds. After the Rollins feud, I was even going to have him interfere with like the Bayley Murphy storyline and have Murphy come out as the face in that one against Velveteen Dream, but that never really materialised. And there was a lot of cool stuff that I wanted to do with Velveteen Dream, because he was an interesting character, to say the least, and there was a bunch of different stories I wanted to go with, because I know a lot of the feedback that I got at the time was they wanted more kind of Attitude Era-esque storylines, and I felt like Velveteen Dream would kind of fit that role perfectly, but obviously real life situations, which I won't go into in this video, necessitated me kind of taking Velveteen Dream out, because, you know, there's still, you know, a lot of uncertainty whether or not you know, whatever. But yeah, that's a whole controversial mess, but I just thought it wasn't worth it bringing Velveteen Dream in, which, you know, it's a shame just personally because of the character of Velveteen Dream, if you see what I mean, not necessarily the person playing the character, just that it was an interesting character that I wanted to bring into NLW. I was even going to have Velveteen Dream challenge Daniel Bryan for the NLW Championship at one point, and it was going to be at a pay-per-view, which would have been True Grit now that I think about it. That was formerly going to be called Undisputed because of Adam Cole and Stone Cold Steve Austin. That was always the plan, but there was another plan to have Velveteen Dream go up against Daniel Bryan for the NLW Championship. Dream would obviously lose, but it was something to kind of elevate Dream against Daniel Bryan. So yeah, never materialised, but fun fact, Velveteen Dream's spot was taken by Andrade, but luckily it's all worked out because Andrade now one half of the NLW Tag Team Champions. For number 3, we've got Shinsuke Nakamura becoming the NLW Champion. Yes, it was supposed to happen at WrestleMania 4. Initially, that match was supposed to be just Seth Rollins versus Shinsuke Nakamura, but I didn't know if that was a strong enough match on its own, especially considering that that match had already happened in real life at Survivor Series the previous year, I believe. So I didn't want to just have a complete copy of that match, hence why I added Daniel Bryan to the triple threat, which was positively received, unlike in real life when he was added to the WrestleMania 37 one, but that's besides the point. So yeah, Nakamura was going to be the champion for quite a while. In fact, he was supposed to take Daniel Bryan's role for a while, but instead I decided to turn Nakamura heel because I was doing this long-running storyline with Daniel Bryan. Initially, he wasn't even going to be anywhere near the title scene at WrestleMania 4 last year. So what was going on was Bryan was kind of losing all these big matches, and then he was kind of getting close but not quite, and then he would get close to winning the Royal Rumble but come runner-up. So I felt like it would be quite anticlimactic to not have him become champion at any point. So I thought, well, we'll turn Nakamura heel, have Bryan go in as the face in that whole scenario, and Rollins as kind of this tweener character. And I think the match is one of my favourite matches I've ever made. If you've not seen it before, Rollins, Nakamura, Daniel Bryan, the main event of WrestleMania 4, do go back and watch that because it's a match that I'm very proud of making. It was like top 5 matches of the year 2020 as well. So yeah, there's a lot that I wanted to do with Nakamura as champion. But I think going down this route where I had Bryan become the champion has worked out better in the long run, and now of course Daniel Bryan being released from NLW in storyline, but tune in to programming over the next couple of weeks to see how that feud develops. So at number 4, do you remember WrestleMania 2 when the NWO was vanquished by Team NLW and forced to disband? Well, initially the plan was to have the NWO win and control NLW for an entire year. Yes, that was initially the plan. So what was going to happen was the commissioner's team, they just win, they just straight out win, and then move on and kind of dominate NLW. This plan was still to have CM Punk turn heel in that match and join the NWO, and I was going to have the, you know, have you ever seen the Wolfpack and CM Punk theme mashup on YouTube? Great theme, and that's the only reason I wanted to turn him heel and him join the NWO, and it would have been a perfect fit. But instead, I thought that it would have been, I don't know, just anticlimactic, because the year before I had Triple H win the title in the main event of WrestleMania, and I don't know if I should have had a heel win in the main event. I feel it should have been this kind of face triumph and a culmination of like a year-long storyline that I built up. So yeah, having NLW win, definitely the right decision, especially considering the NWO stuff would have got stale pretty quickly, but there were plans to have kind of them control the company and sort of take over, rename it NWO TV and stuff like that. But yeah, it just never materialised, purely because I didn't want to run it into the ground, because it had been going on for quite a while and I felt like I'd done all that I could with it, and continuing it on would have been just a little bit too much. In fact, WrestleMania 2 wasn't even going to be called WrestleMania 2 at one point. It was going to be called Sold Out, after the NWO, obviously. And then that was when they were going to win the match, go on for a couple more pay-per-views, and then WrestleMania 3 WrestleMania 2 ended up turning into WrestleMania 3. So I was going to have a longer gap between WrestleManias, which, you know, I think people wanted another WrestleMania, hence why I gave it to them. There wasn't even supposed to be a Royal Rumble in 2015 until I changed that. So that was why, because of fan pressure at the time. But in the end, it worked out well, because NWO Sold Out on its own, the card I'd made, worked as a WrestleMania, so I just tweaked a couple of things, and there it was. So yeah, glad I didn't run that angle into the ground, and it had the satisfying conclusion. And here's a fun little side note: it was initially supposed to be the Commissioner versus Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 3 for the control of the company, because the NWO would have kicked out Hogan would have come back and been like, what's this, brother? And yeah, had a silly little match at WrestleMania 3. Yeah, glad that never materialised, because that was an idea I had in my head, but after thinking about it for a while, I just hated the idea, so I scrapped it. But it would have been interesting, to say the least, to see Hogan in an NLW ring, but I'll be honest with you, don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. And the last plan on this list, it was originally supposed to be Kenny Omega versus AJ Styles for the NLW Championship at WrestleMania 5. Yes, this WrestleMania coming. Now, it's not really a spoiler because you can tell the route I'm taking with Omega and HBK, that storyline. So, yeah, there was initially supposed to be a plan where once Kenny Omega had kind of vanquished The Undertaker and done all that stuff, he was supposed to be the one to beat Shinsuke Nakamura, and then he would have gone on to face AJ Styles at WrestleMania. But, you know, there's part of me that still wants to do this match, and it might happen at a future WrestleMania, just not the next one. So, in essence, it was supposed to be kind of like a Bullet Club take, but, you know, the Bullet Club stuff has been done to death a lot over, you know, several years and stuff, so I just didn't know if I wanted to rehash it again. But it would be an interesting match, and I feel like there's a lot of cool spots I could come up with it. I would like to make it someday for NLW 24/7, so if anyone wants to request that match, they can go ahead and do so. But it's just something that I didn't want to bring into the main series. I felt like it had been done a lot, and one of the initial criticisms, or not criticisms, but something that me personally, I didn't want to have in NLW was too much replication with real life. And although this wouldn't be replication with real life, it seems too obvious. And with NLW, I want to subvert expectations a little bit, create matches that you wouldn't really think of in your head sometimes. So, you know, sometimes the best course of action is to be a little bit unpredictable. Obviously, Omega vs. Michaels is not the most original idea in the world. I've seen Feds do it before, but with my spin on it here in NLW, it's enough to make it unique. With this feud that I was planning between Omega and AJ, I didn't feel like I had anything to kind of bring new to it that people hadn't already done. So that's why I didn't want it at this year's WrestleMania. So, if it happens again, Omega will probably be the champion, and I might have AJ Styles kind of work his way back up the card from where he was. So, there is a possibility that this will still happen. I just need to think of a scenario which will satisfy the fans and will satisfy my kind of creative flair, so to speak. And those aren't the only unreleased plans either. There's so many more that I've yet to even come up with, because I'm sure I'm going to come up with some ideas in the coming weeks that are going to be scrapped completely, and they may make it into a future video. I would like to do a follow-up to this. Let me know in the comments if you would like me to do this, and also let me know in the comments what you thought of the video. Let me know if any of these plans you would have liked to have come true over the real outcome, and any that you're glad didn't see the light of day. And, you know, if you've got any questions about any other unreleased plans, let me know in those comments. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe to NLW Figs for more wrestling figure content. That's it from me. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.